like is underused. So the first little fourlet, if you want to call it a fourlet, will just be straight sticking right, left. And I use capitals and lowercase. Some people don't. That's fine. There will be a grace note here, but that's going to be a right hand flam, two rights, and then a left right alternating. This will be a two lefts and a right left. This is actually going to be a rim shot.
Okay.
Go ahead and put the grace notes in now. So this is what's known as a flammed mill. And we will just copy and paste this down here to the quads because they play it as well. And I have it around that I can put in here real quick. I will go ahead and put the right sounds in here for the bass line. Okay. I don't need to be redundant with dynamics. However, notice here, sometimes I will purposefully be redundant just in case there's confusion. This is just a courtesy check just to say, hey, bass drums, not only are you going to start piano, but every note is going to be piano until this first unison. Okay. Now I have left some stickings open, and that is up for interpretation. Sometimes I get some questions and I say, well, whatever feels comfortable to you. And sometimes it ends up that it's a better version than what I would have come up with, because that lets me know what the students are into at the time. So I sort of let them decide that. That also has to do with quad arounds. Some of these quad arounds were mine. Some of them were exactly what I wrote the first time. And some of them were adjusted by the staff. Some of them were adjusted by students at the appropriate time and place. They asked if they could adjust it. I said, well, show me what you got. And they played it for me. I said, that looks great. That looks better than anything I could have ever written. So I put it in. And it ends up being better for the production overall. Okay, so now this little lick in the snares. Put the quad part in here. Again, end with a rim shot. I have a lot of rim shots in here. I don't believe we played them all, but I put them in the scores as reference to, okay, we need a different sound here. With battery, sometimes we struggle to find different sounds. And so I put it in more as a note to either myself or the staff as, hey, you can play a rim shot here. However, if there's too many rim shots, take this one out, change it to something else. Maybe it's just a Spock note. Maybe it's just a normal hit. Maybe it's a bass drum rim click if it's soft enough. But if there are too many rim shots, it can be abrasive and just monotonous. Okay, and I'll fill in the quad around here real quick. Let's finish up the 2-bar battery break that is less of a break and more transitional into the soft section. Okay, so again, I did decide this would be very disjunct. I believe I remember starting with the quad part, and yes, it's going to be all on drum 3. Sometimes this is a decision that comes based on, well, I'll just write it here on one drum for a little while. And then if it's a section like this where it doesn't need to be busy, then I just keep it on one drum. We don't need it to be moving around all the time. So then the snare part here, this was a decision that sort of came out of that same idea where we don't need it to be busy, but I realized that I wanted this to outline the quad part and at the same time fit in with what they're doing. So it is based on the quarter note triplet, and that should line up. And then once we finish our triplety section, then we go into a more eighth note bass. So if you notice, what we have here is like 3 beats of triplets and then 3 beats of this eighth note pulse, that gives us sort of like triplet for 3 beats, duple for 3 beats, and then we have just a buzz roll to end us off. I am going to quickly describe my process here with the section here from G to H. So we'll listen to it one time. So I'm hearing rhythmic brass, groove oriented, still forward motion, but nothing too heavy. So I have already composed this little buzz roll, kind of orchestral sounding lick that I thought worked pretty well. That I'm just going to paste in here so you can look at. I use trip to notate, hey, snares, play some triplets, triplet check underneath that buzz roll. And I believe I actually ended up taking these out, these buzzes, and just making them, soft little tenuto marks that decay. So I liked how that flowed over the bar line, but kept it driving forward. What I did is I took that and I started that on beat 3 for the quad. So I took that same lick and then I just started on the 3rd beat of this measure. So you'll notice it's the same lick, just offset by 2 beats. And it overlaps each other, but then around this area, I then transitioned to a little bit of a quad moment that actually plays off the bass drums, which you will see here in just a second. What I've found is when you have a soft section of music, and if you have a very strong group, you can sometimes get away with writing a lot of notes in the bass line at a soft dynamic, and it gives it a good feel and a good texture. You're not gonna be overbearing as long as you have good musicians in your bass line, and they understand what it means to balance underneath the core. And then I also have a bunch of dings written into the cymbal line here, so they get to play a little bit more rhythmic. And I believe that this rhythm here is based off of what the marimbas and vibes are playing. So when we listen to this section, we should be able to hear that. So you see how the bass line almost has a feature here because of the opportunity that's presented. Again, that's based on the musicians that you have in the group, and we were fortunate enough to have a great line that can pull something like this off. So we've finished this section from F to H in movement 2 for the Battalion 2019 production. We'll listen to it one time over here and see how it sounds. So we ended up landing on liking how that flowed and how that works. And although you see all the sections playing pretty much all the way through, except for this little section right here, where we have battery playing off of each other, I find that there are good ways to keep the battery going and driving tempo. If they're behind the core, that's the best spot for them on the field. But it can still be sort of a tempo driving moment no matter where they are. So I like to keep them all in unless we are really focusing on a feature, for one of the sections, if it's a quad solo, tenor solo, bass solo, cymbal feature. I like to keep them all involved until we really know what the drill staging is going to be like. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you, DCI. Thank you, Battalion, for this opportunity. and go Battalion 2021.